check to see if it's on, if it's due the,
Yeah.
if you want to check. So now we're live, right?
Yeah.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Oh, I have to turn on my machine. Let me see. What do I do to turn my machine on? I guess I go like this. Oh, there it goes. And I'm walking and talking. My favorite things. Okay, let me see. Oh, there's that. My little. Okay, there's my little thing there. All right, fine. Oh, I guess it's good.
Sounds good.
Okay, good. Thanks, sweetie. Oh, I guess I was looking at how I turn my machine on. I don't know how I turn that on. Let's see. It's on. Oh, and I guess, let's see. There. I guess you hit that, but. Oh, then you hit it again. So you have to hit it again when you want it to run. So that's the only controller is there.
Yeah, pay attention.
There's no controlling on here per se. It's all on that remote, right?
And that's as slow as it'll go.
Okay, good. All right, good morning, everybody. All right, today is, what would I say, like, what's his name? Anyway, whatever his name is, it's a gorgeous day in San Jose. It's a beautiful day in San Jose. It is a beautiful day. What's his name? Our guy on Collapse Chronicles. Sam Mitchell. It's an over-the-top gorgeous day in San Jose. It is. It's over the top.
It is over the top gorgeous.
It's an over-the-top gorgeous day in San Jose. However, that will change. Like everything will change. Climate change will change everything. So don't expect what we have now to be what you get in the future. We have to prepare. So that's the message, is preparing and getting ready for the changes that are going to happen. And so, let's see, what was I studying yesterday? Coral reefs. Yeah, my coral reefs. And so, oh yeah, that was great. Yeah, that was a good lesson. Cougar W gave me about the coral reefs, that the hard shell is just the hard shell that you see, but there's the polyp inside. What? Anything else you need?
I'm just looking for my sunglasses.
Oh, okay. You have two pairs.
That's true. I mean,
See if it's in that basket under the table. You remember I put everything in that basket. Yeah. So anyway, so basically, what was it? It was that the coral reefs are dying, and they have reached a tipping point where they won't come back. That's what they're saying, is that they're having a die-off from the heat of the ocean, from burning our fossil fuels. And I was thinking about my brother-in-law who likes to, I think he liked to scuba dive, right? He did scuba diving. I was thinking, okay, we'll have to talk to him about the coral reefs, and maybe he'll care enough to stop burning fossil fuels, but I doubt it. What?
nobody does.
Nobody does. Nobody wants to stop. Nobody wants to stop, right?
Can't stop.
Well,
Nobody can. Nobody can stop.
nobody can stop. That's what Cougar W says. Nobody can stop. I don't agree. We can stop. So, I mean, the thing is, what did he say, my brother-in-law? He was saying that, they couldn't have electric cars because his daughter drives from Oroville to Chico every day. Okay, fine. So anyway, the range of the electric car is now, I mean, some of them are like 400 miles on a charge. I mean, there is no problem. So anyway, people don't want to change. And, I mean, not to say that the electric car is the solution. Oh, is that making a squeechy sound? Or was that a dog outside? Maybe it was a dog. Good. I hope it's not a screechy sound. It's bad enough, the sound of my feet. But anyway, that's a doggy outside. Good. I think there's a dog. Oh, somebody's sitting on our porch with their doggy. All right. Good. Anyway, so yeah, so basically back to the coral reefs. Okay, so we have to stop burning fossil fuels. And that's what Cougar W said today. That's all he wants to hear from anybody. And, and the other thing is that I say is that the back door to not burning fossil fuels is to grow food, which is what we have to do too. But why I say it's a back door is that, to grow food, you have to stay home and take care of your plants. And so, I mean, I guess you could set up, irrigation and all that. But currently we're using we hand water. So anyway, just taking care of your plants is, I say a back door to using to stop burning fossil fuels, because you have to take care of your plants. And yeah, so that's good. And okay, so what Cougar W says is that we have to stop burning fossil fuels. Okay, good. But then he says we can't. He always says that we can't, which I don't understand that exactly. But, it's true. There's so much that is connected to... did you find your glasses, Kat?
I'm finding my stuff.
Okay, good. Anyway, and so then basically, it's just... that it is, the water situation is a big part of our independence from fossil fuels, which is difficult. So we are collecting rainwater, and that's something I'm going to do today. Is I'm going to we collected rainwater in our 50-gallon containers, but now I have to transfer it into other 50-gallon containers. So you have to do that. I mean, eventually we'll have a big cistern, and we could collect a lot more. And we need to do that eventually too. But I guess it would be, in our case, we would have to put it underground, because we don't have a lot of real estate to put a big 50-gallon, not 50-gallon, like a 500-gallon or something, or 1,000-gallon or 5,000-gallon. That's what you need. And so that would be great. But, right, yeah, so anyway, so that's something to do, is to save water, save our rainwater. And we're supposed to have a dry season, even though we had a big rain early. But we're supposed to have a dry season because of La Nina or something. But anyway, getting back to the coral reefs. The coral reefs are very critical. And so, I used to always think they'd say the economics of, that there was a lot of people, a billion of people, I think, that depend on the coral reefs for their economy. And I always said, okay, well, can't they get another economy or something? But I realized that that it is very critical that these are people that are subsistence farmers, fishermen, right? Subsistence, meaning that's how they they live, and that they're not most probably making money. They're just surviving. Now, even if they are making money, it's most probably, I don't know. The type of fishing that is done, Cougar W said, is the type of fishing that's done in a coral reef is not like big fishing boats, motorized fossil fuel boats that are coming into the coral reef, but because it's such a shallow area that it's just hand fishing with a spear, or like from a boat that you're just with a sail, going into the coral reefs. So and these are by the equator, and so it's a very anyway, just a primitive way of fishing. This is what goes on there, and so these are the way they survive. Is subsistence is called, where they're not making money, they're just surviving on the foods that are provided by nature. And so now that is going away from losing the coral reefs, where they will lose that easy access to the fish, because the fish, it's a whole ecosystem. So when the coral reefs die, the whole system dies. And so that's the problem, that it supported a lot of beautiful fish that were being fished, and that these people were subsistence farmers. And so I guess I could be closer, but anyway, and so that's one of the problems of losing the coral reef around the equator. They say that there's like 80 countries that have the coral reefs that are the ones that are being lost now, and maybe like 80% of our coral reefs are being lost. And so anyway, that's one thing, is the subsistence fishing. Then the coral reefs also provide prevention of flooding and let's say ocean surges, flooding, and so that coral reef being in the ocean stops the waves from being as strong as they are, and the waves are getting stronger from climate change and heating up our oceans. And so when you lose that infrastructure underneath the ocean that the coral reefs are, that it stops a certain amount of storm surges and flooding, that type of thing. So that's important, just from the infrastructure that a coral reef is, from these large structures that are the calcium buildup that they use, like shells. And these are animals. And I always thought, like, well, how are they animals? Like this shell, this hard shell. But that's not what's in there. It's just like a mollusk or a bivalve. You have this hard shell on the outside, like a clam. But there's that soft body inside. And that's the way the corals are, too. That it is a soft-bodied animal that lives inside that shell. And I guess they just build that shell for their protection. And and then there's the zoo, what is it called? The zoos, the plant that grows, the algae that grows, zoozellen, what is it? Cat, what's it called? The algae, Zooxanthellae. I love that name. Zooxanthellae are the algae that grows in the skin, right, of that polyp. Is that how it is? It actually grows in the skin.
In the skin.
Of the polyp that grows. And they grow that shell for protection. Is that what it is? It's just a protective shell.
Like the clam has the
yeah,
shell.
right. And then, but I guess, yeah, right, the clam has the shell. So anyway, the Zooxanthellae is the algae that grows in the skin of the polyp. And they have a symbiotic relationship. And the Zooxanthellae, which is the algae, feeds the polyp. And then the polyp the Zooxanthellae gets what does it get? I don't know what it gets from the relationship, but it's symbiotic. They both benefit from that. And so, let's see, what would the algae get from the animal? Well, I guess it has a home. It has a home. And, And then I guess it has a home to live in. And then it just collects energy from the sun. And that is true, that the coral reefs are very shallow and they need the sunlight to survive. Most of it's the plants that need the sunlight. And so, anyway, which is the algae. And then the other thing, they said something about where other plants will start growing, and they would actually destroy the coral reef, like what is it? The large seaweeds, would be covering the coral reefs, and that could also. So when other animals other plants start growing there, that they can cause trouble to the coral reefs too. Well, it was just something I read about. Anyway, and so what was the other thing? So the coral reefs are going away, and so and they call that the first tipping point. We've reached the first of the 9 tipping points of that are going to destroy life on Earth, and that's what we're dealing with right now. And even I was listening to this video last night, and I forget his name, Robert something, and he was coming. He says, "Yeah, we're in a very bad way," which is true. He's been a climate scientist and a journalist for a long time, right? Robert Heineken or something. I forget what his name is. Not Robert, but something with an H. Anyway, and so. And he came, though, to the same solution that Cougar W comes to, which is concurrency of voices. And basically it was saying that, we have to have village life. That's the only way we're going to survive. Because we have to survive without fossil fuels. That's what Cougar W says. You have to survive without fossil fuels. And and then the only way you will survive, most people will die, because they don't know how to survive without fossil fuels, and they haven't learned to grow their own food. And that's what he always says, where's your food source? Where's your food source? That's it. That's we are animals, so we have to have our food source, and that's what we have to get back to basics. That's getting back to basics, is our food source. And so basically, yeah, that's it. So where's your food source? That's what he always says we have to, each of us, ask. And so that's why we have to grow our own food, because those are the people that will survive, and it will take a village to survive. So, and then he says, that none of us will build a village beforehand, and only when things get really bad. And I say, well, that's really dumb, right? To wait till, the climate change happens so bad, even here in San Jose, beautiful sunny day. Until it gets a lot worse, where there's a lot of, like what's happened in LA, Southern California, was that they had a tornado, and that was all part of climate change. It was the breaking off, Cougar W gave me a big lesson about the jet stream, and the jet stream, how it's breaking off. And so when you have these circular winds, and then that were around the Arctic. This is they call it the polar vortex, and that means it was traveling very fast. But then when it slows down, because the differential is not as great, our Arctic is warming so much more than the rest of the Earth, because it's a smaller area on the top of the Earth. We're in some type of shape that we are, where we have smaller. Oblong, whatever they call it. Anyway, the shape of the Earth is not totally circular. And so the top of the Earth and the bottom of the Earth are narrower places, less real estate. So they're heating up more quickly. And so the differential between the mid-latitudes and the upper latitudes are a lot less, because the Arctic is heating up so much. And so the North Pole. And so you have the waving of the jet stream. And the waving of the jet stream and then it caused a break off of the jet stream. And those keep, because those winds were going around horizontally around the Arctic to keep that cold air in, is how the jet stream was working, the polar vortex. But then when it starts wavering and coming down, and part of it broke off, and that it keeps moving around, so you get tornadic or what they call cyclonic wind movement keeps going. That cyclonic motion is not stopping. And so we had tornado in Los Angeles. So, all of Los Angeles County, there was reports to say, stay inside. Los Angeles County, stay inside. And so they did. I mean, that's what was happening. They had a tornado type of thing. I don't know what it turned into, but that was the warning, that it was going to be tornadic, activity, circular, because of this jet stream, that the polar vortex broke off and was so low that it breaks off, and that's why So anyway, it was coming to Southern California, and so that's climate change. Anyway, and so. What else? So basically, I don't know what I was talking about with the coral reefs, but the coral reefs are dying, and they said that they're not going to come back. That's where they've reached a tipping point. Just like they say with the chair, at a certain point, when you fall, when you rock the chair, and then you reach over that point, you're in a different state of being. You fell, the chair falls. So it's just like that. It's gone into a different state, and that's what they're saying. It's gone into a different state. It's not going to recover. Right, you're not going to rock anymore on that chair. You already fell down, so you're in a different state. And so once you reach over, that's what happened. And so we're in a tipping point with the, and they said they're not going to come back. I mean, it's being so bad, and the oceans are so warm from burning our fossil fuels. And then I guess this report was by Tim Lenton of the report, he was from Exeter or something in the UK. And all he talked about, so he's the one that did the report, and they're getting ready. These reports are coming up. This is 160 scientists and that did this report about the tipping of the coral reef. And coral reefs, plural, and 80 of them around the world. Anyway, and so then on the equator, mostly the tropical coral reefs. But most of them, that's where they are. Even if you look at Australia and the Great Barrier Reef, it's by the equator. And I have to look it up, but that's what I think it is. And so, anyway, but, so, what else? So basically, what was I saying? Well, okay, Tim Lenton. Yeah, so he's being interviewed on some news station about this report of the 160 scientists that were preparing it for the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. And I guess they would look at that when they go to this COP30, the Congress of the Conference of the Parties. This is number 30 that's dealing with climate change. And so they're meeting in Brazil in November. And so the scientists are getting, the reports ready for them to, act on it, act on this bad news of the coral reefs going into a tipping point and will not return. And so they're saying, okay, what Tim Lenton, however you pronounce his name, he's the head scientist from the UK, he was saying that, we have to get them to really push policies for global engineering, that we have to engineer so we go to zero. And that's the suggestion he had. And it was like really frustrating to hear that, because that was it. It was all about global, geoengineering, that we need to strengthen our geoengineering research so we can go to zero. I was like, oh, gosh, that's not going to happen. First of all, the technologies aren't there to do that. And we're just burning so much fossil fuels and so much carbon dioxide that to say we're going to bring it to zero, and that we just don't have the real estate to make the bricks or to put it in the ground or all the things we have to do. What we have to do is keep fossil fuels in the ground and stop burning fossil fuels. I mean, it's simple. It's simple. That's what we have to do. And we have to build villages so we can survive. And that was what even this guy, Richard, whatever he was talking about, how bad the situation is, he was saying that we have to get back to community life and simple life and the life of, where all our needs are met by ourselves and our neighbors. I mean, that's it. So I say, I need to get some water. But basically, I'm doing my exercise. Thank you guys. And for keeping me company. I don't know if anybody's there. Anyway, so coral reefs are dead. I guess that's how I labeled this. Coral reefs are dead. Yeah, so, okay, then we said it was the end of a economy for, okay, so then I was realizing is these people are going to die. They're going to die. So humans are going to die from this because this is their whatever it's called, when you grow food and just, that's, just simple. You're not selling it per se. You're just surviving. You're living sustenance, farming. Subsistence, not existence, but subsistence farming, that you're just surviving. And, maybe they sell it and trade it, and they had their, where all their needs were met by themselves and their neighbors, and the ocean was nature was providing their needs. And so now that's going to go away. The food source is going to go away. Those people will most probably die. That's where you have, you're going towards extirpation or something, where those people go extinct. I mean, it doesn't mean we all go extinct because of the coral reefs, but a bunch of us, billions of us that are dependent on the coral reefs for survival will. Okay, so that's the beginning of extinction. Okay, so then there's, and of course, the other, then you have the other tipping points, like the Amazon rainforest, where it's becoming a source. And I was just hearing, the Amazon rainforest has been a sink. And that means it's been taking in the Amazon rainforest, the big rainforest of trees and plants, has been taking in our CO2. That's what plants do. They take in the CO2. But now it's becoming a source of CO2, and that must be from burning we are burning the trees, and then you get a lot of CO2 from burning the trees, and when fires, and what were they saying? They were also saying, there was a report in the Guardian that, from so many of our fires, we have so much CO2 because we have so many fires going around the world. And that climate change is making it worse, our fires. And then it's what they call a positive feedback or aggravating. We call it positive feedback, but it's aggravating feedback, meaning that when we burn fossil fuels and we create an environment that dries out the land and we get a lot more fires, then we get a lot more CO2. And so that creates the drying of the land and the global heating, and then you get a lot more fire. So it's called an aggravating feedback. It's a loop that is problematic to us. And so I don't know, it's talking about fires, but that's where they're burning the Amazon because they want agriculture, and it's to grow soybeans for the cattle. That's what they're doing. And so they're burning the Amazon trees, and so now the Amazon is becoming a source, not a sink. And what would they say? There was something about a sink, like, it's becoming like fossil fuels. It's becoming like fossil fuels, like the cars and the planes and, the industry. That's what's happening with the Amazon rainforest. It's becoming like our cars and our airplanes and our industries that we're burning so much. And so, anyway, so that was that. That's another thing that's another tipping point that we're facing. But anyway, getting back to coral reefs are dead. Okay, so what did we say? That we had the issues where the subsistence farmers are going to have difficulty surviving, okay, or maybe won't survive, and they might die, and they're not going to go pick up and move somewhere. They don't have money to do that type of change. Okay, so that's potentially what could happen there. And then the lack, then in a lot of flooding, their neighborhoods, their communities will be a lot more flooding because of the lack of the structure. The structure will die. So what happens is that structure that was the coral reef, and this coral, this hard-shelled, they say it's the largest animal in the world, because, and you can even see it from space, because it's just this large, I guess a symbiotic relationship, but it's a colony. It's a colony. So it's like this very large colony of this coral reefs. And so you have these hard shells, and then inside is the animal, which is called the polyp. And then the polyp has this xanthelle, and so that's the algae that keeps it alive. But because of the heat of the ocean, the xanthelle is dying, and it's too hot. And when it gets too hot, the oceans are so hot, they even call it boiling. Our oceans are boiling, and so the coral, the polyp, actually ejects the xanthelle, the algae. It rejects it, and then I guess it actually dies. Then the polyp dies, and then when the polyp dies, the corals are not, the shell actually turns back into sand. It's calcium buildup. It turns back into sand. So you don't have these big mountains of corals that were there, the coral reef, the colonies. So, and then you don't have that protection that you had. And so from the storm surges and the flooding that could happen from that. So that's one of the other second problem. I was thinking about a third problem, but I was from losing the coral reefs. So those places become uninhabitable, and from the storm surge and flooding. Okay, so what else was there a problem from the coral reefs? And the subsistence farming is gone. And, that is the largest source of animal fish life in the world, is the coral reefs. And I think something like that. I mean, I guess, of course, they take these nets and they get the small little not artichokes, what is it? the anchovies, or these type of animals that live in the big ocean, the deeper ocean. But anyway, they say it's just the variety is the most. I mean, you have the most variety in the coral reefs. Anyway, let's see. I'm gonna go like that. Okay, good. So what else? What else were the problems with losing the coral reef? Okay, well, those are two big things. Can't think of anything else, but I know there's more. Anyway, the coral reefs are dead. That's what they're saying. It's gone into a tipping point. So they're just hoping that this report is going to stimulate people to get more geoengineering so we can bring it down to zero CO2. And, never talking about keep fossil fuels in the ground. Even the scientists aren't saying that, keeping fossil fuels to the ground. So I guess, what it is that it's like, what's his name? What was he? He's a muckraker, whatever his name is, who wrote that book on the animal agriculture. And anyway, I can't think of his name, but he said it's very hard to convince a man whose income is based on a product to, go after that product as a problem. And so it's the same thing with our scientists, that they're being paid these big money for their grants and their college jobs. And, so capitalism is supporting them in their lifestyle. So they're not going to say we have to stop capitalism and consumerism, because that's what supports them. So instead they said, we need more science to create more ways of geoengineering to put fossil fuels back and put the CO2 back into the ground, or some BS. So, that's all they can say, because they don't want to destroy their livelihood. Anyway. So that's what we get from our scientists right now, and that's not good. So, but we are getting from Cougar W to keep fossil fuels in the ground. And the way that we're going to survive is village life. So, that's what I normally do, is I do walk in my neighborhood and talk to my neighbors. So, I guess that's what we have to do. We should be talking to our neighbors about the fact that we have to keep fossil fuels in the ground. And what that means is that we have to have all our needs met by ourselves and our neighbors. So I think it's a nice thing to talk about, and then I always ask them how their garden is going, because that's what we need. It's going to take a village for us to survive. So that's one thing. So anyway, let's see. Oh, and being vegan, I was talking to my daughter and my son about protein and how you can get protein from vegetables. And you don't need, first of all, you don't need a lot of protein. And then they were saying you don't even have to worry about combining protein like, rice and beans. They said that it's very easy for our bodies to get the amino acids and, combine them. Anyway, so, but that's what we have been eating a lot of, is salads and a variety of vegetables, is what they said, a variety of plants. We need to have a plant-based diet. And it's better for our health, and it's also better for the planet. So it's a win-win situation. All right, so let me see if there's anything else. So coral reefs are dead. Wow. Yeah. And then everything else is dying too. Like the Amazon is going to die. All the tipping points are happening, and the AMOC is collapsing. And what was it that we were looking at with the AMOC? It was like, well, the cold. It was something that Cougar W was telling me about with the AMOC. He said it didn't, I don't know, I forgot what it was, but that's collapsing too. And therefore the cold will be coming up to the UK areas, will get a lot colder, because the heat will not be transferred from the Atlantic meridional overturning current, the AMOC, the Atlantic meridional. And that means meridional is like north or something. I think that's what that word means, northern. It goes north, overturning current, and that's because of the salt. And what's happening is that the Greenland melting is creating a lot less salinity, and therefore it can't overturn. We're just affecting these these big systems, our Earth, our planetary systems, our Earth systems, and we are affecting it with the CO2. And that we've known, that the CO2 affects everything, affects our whole system. And that's why Venus is uninhabitable, because it's such high CO2, and we've known that, through our geology, that the ice cores, the CO2 is the determinant of our climate, right? Yeah. Anyway, so we're having a lot more storms. Oh, here's Cougar W is back. Zuzantelli. Let's see, hello. I'm still talking. Do you want to say anything? You might want to say something. You might.
Don't die.
Don't die. Okay, don't die. That's really important message. Don't die. Meaning, where's your food source? Don't die. Where's your food source? And so we have to get that without fossil fuels, and that's growing in our backyard and getting our neighbors to grow too. Don't die. So we have to don't die. That's his message. Don't die. All right, good. So I say, talking to our neighbors, and that's what we're supposed to do anyway. We're supposed to talk always about our climate crisis. So, yeah. Anyway, but I guess that's what we're supposed to talk about. Yeah, right. All right, so we talk about it and tell them about it, and so we can, it's unbelievable to think that this world is changing. I mean, people are just it's so hard to believe. It's true, it is. But we see it all the time, the problems we're seeing. So, it's not hard to see climate change happening. Anyway, and the thing is, it's good to talk to your neighbors anyway. And what do we have? The other crisis, we have a loneliness crisis. So people don't talk to each other. So that's a good thing, to talk to each other. And we should only be talking about our crisis, because when you're in a crisis, that's all you talk about. And that's where we are, so anyway, so talk to your neighbors and ask them how they're doing with that's what they did in World War II. The women would talk to their neighbors about their victory gardens and how that was going. That's what we need to do. But now all our women are working in the workforce and nobody's talking to each other. So that's part of our problem. So anyway, I'm doing that. So we need to do that. You can do that. You can do it. All right, good. And stay home and stop burning fossil fuels and walk around your neighborhood and talk to your neighbors. That's what we should be doing. And getting ready for our climate change. And it's happening, so that's what's happening. And it doesn't seem like it's going to happen. We have, what is it called? Bias. There's a bias. It's, what is that called? What is that term called? Cougar W? Anyway, it's called something bias, where we have a bias about everything will be the same as it was yesterday. But, there's a name for that. And that's how our brain works. But we have to get adjusted to the fact that it's changing and get ready for that. And everybody is saying that it all boils down to community and local, everything local. What is that term, Cougar W? I don't know where he is. Anyway, it's called something bias, where, it's the same. What is that term, Cougar W, about bias, when you think everything's going to be the way it was yesterday?
Normalcy bias.
Normalcy, that everything will be. Where does that come from? Is that in our brain, in our DNA? It's hard.
Totally.
It's part of our DNA?
Yeah.
It's hard to adapt that things will be different than they were yesterday, huh? Is that what it is? It's in our DNA?
Normalcy bias, you have to have it because intelligence
is based on
allows you to see phantasms, things that aren't there.
Uh-huh.
Pattern matching, you can detect threats that aren't there. So normalcy bias is the anchor.
I see.
It tells you actually everything's fine. Everything's fine.
So you can function, basically.
So you can function on a daily basis.
Based on how you functioned yesterday.
And if any threat finally does rise,
then you deal with that.
Then you deal with it. But all the others are suppressed by normalcy bias. So it's adaptive.
Right.
It comes along with being intelligent. It's an expression of intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
But it prevents you from recognizing signals of danger.
Change.
if they are not immediate and acute.
Right.
If they are subtle,
Right.
you miss it.
Right.
And global heating and
Right.
everything related to the Earth system
Right.
is by nature subtle,
Right.
and we miss it. And
Right.
normalcy bias, in this case,
Right.
is a threat to our survival.
Right. Right.
It'll keep you from being killed by a tiger
Yeah.
because you'll sense the tiger coming, but you won't sense
Right.
the low-level threat
Well, right.
that is boiling
Right.
you alive.
Right. It's just like the frog that's in hot water
The
doesn't
boil-
notice
yeah,
it's in hot water.
The so-called example of boiling a frog.
Right.
The frog is suffering from normalcy bias.
Right.
In that
When he sits in the
situation.
water and he doesn't
He
see.
thinks this is fine.
it's changing.
This is fine. This
Right.
is fine.
Right.
And it's subtle. But
Right.
it's not fine. It's
Right.
extremely dangerous.
Right. Right.
And the frog
Right.
is going to die.
Right. And that's why I say we have to talk to each other, because actually not talking to each other is what, keeps us into a normalcy bias. Is that, no, the media is not going to talk about it. The politicians aren't talking about it. I mean, I just was on the phone with, talking with Dave Cortese, our state senator in California for Santa Clara County or San Jose. And so, and I wrote him, I said, they said, put your questions into the chat. And I'm glad he had a Zoom meeting. That was great, because I don't like going into buildings since of COVID. So, okay, so he had a Zoom meeting. Good for him. And he said to put your questions in the Q&A area of the Zoom talk. So I put my question. What did I say? I said, since keeping fossil fuels in the ground is our only solution, not burn fossil fuels, because, Dave Cortese, he had this big meeting like a couple of years ago about geoengineering and how it was the best thing in the world. And so, okay, so I told him, I said, since, keeping fossil fuels in the ground is truly the only solution to our climate crisis, if there is a solution. But anyway, and so then, and I said, and therefore we'll have a food crisis. We're going to have a food crisis from that, and that we need to get ready for that. And how can the state of California help us to, all of us, to grow food locally? And so, but that didn't, and so they just, ignore the question. He did ignore the question. It did come up in the thing. And of course, his little helpers are the ones that interpret the questions. And so everything is very, very moderated and very controlled, and you don't get really to talk to the politicians. I guess I'll send him the letter.
The
What?
mainstream media is doing the same thing.
What? In what sense?
They don't let these questions, they don't let these issues or the questions people have float to the surface.
That's
It's never
true.
covered in the media.
That's true. The
They refuse
media,
to talk about it.
the politicians. So right, nobody's talking about the media or the politicians or anybody really. So what we have to do is talk about it, because that actually capitalism and consumerism wants us to be isolated. I mean, that's their goal. So anytime we talk to each other, we are actually fighting capitalism and consumerism, because that's their goal, is to separate us. So we buy more refrigerators and we buy more washing machines, and we have to have our own car, and we have to have our own this, that, and the other. And so anytime you're talking to a neighbor, you're actually fighting that. And what we need to talk about is our crisis, because nobody's talking about it. Nobody's talking about it. Well, you see, our president isn't talking about it, is doing such a bad job with it and saying it's a hoax, and terrible. So we have to talk about it, because that's the way we can fight it, and let people know that the crisis is happening, and we have to prepare. So, that's what I say. So go ahead, talk to your neighbors and tell them about our crisis, and we have to start growing food and I call it, what do they say? There is no planet B, but I say we have to have a plan B, because plan A isn't working. And plan A is business as usual, burning fossil fuels, and we're going over the edge. We have already, what is Cougar W says, we've hit the iceberg, get to the lifeboat, and lifeboat is village life. And he says we won't create village life till, it's a lot worse, and then we'll help each other. But the thing is, we have to prepare. I mean, what is my girlfriend, my neighbor, says, she's a biologist or something like that, and she says it takes 10 years to grow good soil. So we can't just start growing food. It's a lot of work to grow food. It's not easy. And so we have to get going and work on it. All right, sweeties. All right, let's see, how many did I do? I don't know, somewhere like 30 minutes, something like that. All right, so then that's 40 minutes. Okay, 40 minutes, good. All right, sweetie. It was good talking to everybody. So what we said is coral reefs are dead. What are the problems with the coral reef dying, Cougar W? Besides the loss of subsistence farming, and besides the fact that the hard corals created a infrastructure that blocked sea level rise and storm surges and things like that.
There's a couple of answers to this.
What else? Yeah.
First of all, there's no direct harm to humans.
Oh, except for the ones that are subsistence with that.
Yeah, okay, we don't care about those.
We don't care about.
Okay, that's what economics taught us.
Right.
Is we can't care about people who don't participate in
capitalism
okay?
Consumerism.
I'm being
facetious. I know.
but I'm just telling you that's how the world
right,
works.
I know.
Second, there is a biodiversity loss.
Okay, right.
And habitat loss for certain types of species, so there'll be an
the ocean itself,
event associated with this.
Right.
But once again, nobody cares about that. That's not important to humans.
Yeah, okay, fine.
There is an economic loss because of tourism. There are lots of
right.
coastal communities, like in Australia, just to pick one, but like Hawaii and others, that make a lot of money renting boats and scuba gear and hotels and
now they're all white and dead.
They're all ugly. They're all going to be destroyed. Okay,
right. Okay, that's true. Okay, fine.
But again, no one cares. Right. These are small communities, little village hamlets. No one cares.
Right.
So in the end, is there any complications for humans that rise to the surface because we lose all the coral reefs? No.
Okay, fine.
Nothing. Okay. But it is immoral for us to do this.
Right. Okay.
Is there any loss to humans if all the elephants go extinct? No. No loss of any kind. Except maybe the ivory trade, which is highly regulated anyway.
And illegal.
However, it's immoral for us to do that.
Right, yeah.
And so there's a...
Right. Good. I like that.
But the other thing is, as this keeps progressing and no one cares about the coral reef. No one cares about the Amazon. No one cares about the Amazon. No one cares. Pretty soon, you start to cut into the bone of survival.
Right.
All right?
Right, and we are.
And a shutdown of the AMOC, for example, which is driven by global heating, a shutdown of the AMOC is going to hurt.
Right.
Okay, this is going to make some places like the UK and maybe parts of Northern Europe uninhabitable, potentially.
Right. Yeah.
An advancement northward of the subpolar jet stream is going to bring heat. We're seeing this in Southern Europe already. Right. The heat coming into Southern Europe is coming from Africa. That's the subtropical jet stream moving north and dragging heat behind it. Okay, that's going to leave a mark. Mm-hmm. So it isn't that the extinctions or the loss of the revenues from the coral reefs or all these things are going to matter, because they don't.
Okay.
But if we don't stop this
train,
it's going to go off the bridge.
And I did want to say something, because one thing that Cougar W has told me is that when life dies in the ocean, which it will, because that coral reef provided a lot of food for a lot of animals, right? For a lot of sea living animals. And then when everything dies in the ocean, we get that, what's that terrible chemical?
Sulfide.
What?
Hydrogen sulfide.
Hydrogen sulfide is a product of the dead animals, and we will die from the hydrogen sulfide. Coastal communities will die from the hydrogen sulfide of the dead. What? It's a powerful neurotoxin. And when things die in the ocean, we say, oh, it doesn't matter. We don't care. We don't live in the ocean. We're land-bearing animals. But, when that dies, when there's so much death in the ocean, and that's something that people are seeing. Oh, I saw that there was a lot of death in the ocean already. We've been having like big die-offs of fish and even of mammals that are dying and being beached. And so the thing is that when we have a large die-off of the ocean, this is the beginning of it. It's been going on. We're definitely heating up the ocean where the animals are dying, and so we get hydrogen sulfide is the chemical of the death of animals. Is that what it is?
Almost anything.
Oh, the death of anything, of any organic matter.
Basically, the oceans go anoxic.
Anoxic.
And they're dominated by decay.
Oh, why do the oceans become no oxygen?
Decay.
Decay. Oh, okay.
Decay.
When there's so much decay.
Plus, the algae.
Yeah.
A lot of the oxygen that's in the ocean.
And when you have dead animals, you get more.
And if the algae are dead, there is no oxygenation of the water.
Okay. Okay. So it's not only the animals, but the plants also die, which are the algae.
When I say the ocean dies, I mean the ocean dies.
Yeah, the whole ocean dies. Right. Right. It's all one symbiotic relationship. The plants, the animals, right? They're all going to die. Why do the plants die? Do they? Well, because the animals die because it's
just toxins that they can't survive.
Right. Right. Yeah. So anyway, you get this hydrogen sulfide, and then that will kill. It's a neurotoxin. Will kill all life around the coasts. So that's something to think about too. You know, if we're only going to think about ourselves. All right. There you go. That's the problems for the day. See you tomorrow. Talk about more problems. And more solutions, which is the only solution is get to the lifeboat, and the lifeboat is village life. And before that, it's keep fossil fuels in the ground. That's the only solution. All right, so get ready. So that's why we have to stop driving and stop flying and stopping the movement of goods, because we have to get ready to, well, stop driving and flying for sure, because we have to stay home and grow food. And that's the same message we got from our pandemic, and that's the thing that stops the pandemic is staying home and not driving and not flying. So anyway, you get a 2-for-1. All right, we love you. Bye. Oh, I did it. I did it. I didn't. I ended my walking, so that was the beginning. Now I'm going to end the stream. I have to take my other mouse and end the stream. Okay, and I say stop streaming. Okay, here I go. All right, we love you. See you tomorrow. See you next Friday. Fridays for future. I'm trying to get my mouse. For some reason the mouse. Okay, let me take that off. Okay, I'm trying to get my mouse to go down. Why won't the mouse? It's like my mouse is not working good. Okay, let me see. Why is my mouse? It's like I'm trying to get over here. Why is it not stopping? It's like my mouse isn't working good. Okay, good. You want to come over? Because it's not working good. Maybe. Oh, hold on. I was trying.
It doesn't not work.